All right, so hello and welcome to the UNLV Graduate College panel discussion presented by the Career Services Center at Nevada State College. My name is Zach Kaczynski. I'm the coordinator of employer relations. The purpose of this discussion is to provide students with a little bit more information about applying for and attending graduate school, and specifically at UNLV, and about how to get the most out of your experience as a graduate student in grad school. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just throw it to our presenters to introduce themselves. Let's go ahead and start with Dave.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Dave Beasley. I'm the recruitment and admissions specialist at the UNLV Graduate College. So what that means is I help recruit for over 175 certificate, master's, and doctoral programs that we have at UNLV, including more than 40 professional and PhD programs. So I'm really glad to be here today.
Awesome, thank you. So now let's have Ashley introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ashley Sylvester. I am the director of the Pre-Professional Advising Center here at UNLV, also known as PPAC, so you may hear that term as well. And our goal and what we do on a daily basis is help students become competitive applicants to 8 different professional tracks. So medical, dental, PA, PT, OT, pharmacy, veterinary, and optometry. So our undergraduates who are interested in pursuing one of those professional tracks, our day-to-day is to work with them and help them become competitive applicants.
Awesome, thank you. So Brian, please.
Hi, I'm Brian Wall. I'm the Assistant Dean of Admissions and Financial Aid at the William S. Boyd School of Law at UNLV. And yeah, my job's to make sure we get some awesome law students, and would love to chat with any of you who want to. We've had some great students from NSC in the past, and we've already admitted a couple this year, and would love to chat with any of you if you want to.
Awesome, and last but not least, Lisa, please.
Hi, my name is Lisa Davis. I'm the Associate Director for the MBA program at the Lee Business School. We do have a dual program with Brian in the law school. We have a JD MBA along with 4 other dual programs. We also offer a number of concentrations within the MBA program, and all of our courses are in the evening. We'd love to chat with anyone that's interested in finding out more about the MBA programs we offer.
Awesome, and just to reiterate, just to tell you all a little bit about what I do. My name is Zach Kaczynski. I'm the coordinator of employer relations. I am from the Career Services Center at Nevada State. So if you're a student or alumni at Nevada State, please drop by our office virtually on our website. It's nsc.edu/career. We also have an Instagram page. So if you need help with resume development, career major exploration, all of that, we are your one-stop shop for that. Okay, we'll go on to our first question. This is going to be specifically for Brian and Lisa, because this has to do with specific programs. So what are some of the career paths available to students who graduate from your program? We'll go ahead and start with Brian.
So, I mean, with us being a law school, the most obvious answer and the typical answer is going to be a lawyer. Most of our graduates are going to go into legal careers, and there are a lot of different permutations of that. You can think about people who do litigation in either a corporate or a criminal sense, people who do transactional work, people who end up eventually becoming judges, people who will go in-house for corporations, people who will work for legal aid or other nonprofit institutions. There are a lot of things that fall under that umbrella of just being a lawyer. We will have people who will do other things with their law degrees. Typically, after they've practiced for a couple of years, they might go into business, particularly those who do what Lisa mentioned with the joint JD MBA. They might go into in-house compliance work, particularly with casinos and other organizations that are heavily regulated by the federal government. Or they might do a variety of other things, but for the most part, if you come to law school, you're going to end up being a lawyer after you graduate.
Awesome, thank you. And Lisa?
Well, with the JD MBA, we do have students. We recommend if students are following the law track and they're interested in the business side of law, that they pursue that program. We also have a dual program in the dental school. So the number one reason that dental practices fail is not their dental practices, it's their business practices. So giving those dentists the tools they need to have a successful practice. We also have a dual with management information systems. So it's more of the technical side, and they may end up somewhere in information systems. We also have quantitative finance. So that's more of a heavy finance program, in hotel administration dual. So depending on what the student's undergrad degree is and which dual track or concentration they pick, will kind of steer them into an area. And I like to tell students that there's business in every business, no matter what business you're in. So that's a good option. We also offer a graduate certificate in business. So if somebody's interested in going into another master's or PhD program, they can add on the certificate to give them a little bit of that background in business. So it's a very versatile and well-recognized degree out in industry.
Awesome, thank you. So our next question here is probably going to be primarily for Brian and Lisa again. But I do have Ashley on here too, because I know that you represent a lot of different programs as well. So what are the minimum application requirements for each of your programs? So as far as GPA, the statement of purpose, any entrance exams that students are required to take, and then what is a competitive GPA or score for those tests? What benchmark should they be looking for? We'll go ahead and just start with Brian one more time.
So in order to be considered for law school, you're going to need to have a bachelor's degree. That doesn't necessarily need to be earned by the time you apply, but it would need to be earned by the time you start the program, so you can apply during your senior year or your last year. And you'll need to take the law school admission test, or the LSAT. Now, we will consider every application. We don't have a minimum cutoff score, at which point we throw your application out or anything like that. You can apply no matter what. For context, the LSAT is scored between a 120 and a 180, 120 being you filled your name out mostly correctly, and a 180 being you got everything right and the gods smiled upon you. The median score for us last year on the LSAT was a 159, and our median GPA was a 3.67. That is a cumulative GPA, so that's not just going to be your degree GPA. If you attended any other institutions prior to Nevada State, those credits are going to count in the calculation of that GPA.
Awesome. Lisa?
Similar to what Brian mentioned, we do look at the GPA, bachelor's degree. We look at a 3.0 for full admission into the MBA program. Graduate college requirement is a 2.75 or higher within your undergraduate degree, and it is cumulative over all of your coursework that you've done towards your bachelor's degree. We do look at the last 60 credits as well of that undergraduate degree. We do require the GMAT exam for students. There's a couple of exceptions. Students that are admitted to the law program would not have to take the GMAT. Students that were admitted into the dental school program would not be required to take the GMAT. Otherwise, a student would be required to take the GMAT. Maximum of 800 on that GMAT test. Our average is about 600. Our minimum for full admission typically is 550, and we consider students usually 500 or higher. We also look at the GRE if they have a comparable score to the GMAT that we would accept. We also collect information about their work experience, a statement of purpose, and some general information that they would also submit. If they have any questions, they can contact us. And also Dave, the Graduate College has a lot of good information as far as the admission requirements for any of the master's or PhD programs on campus.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Ashley. I know that you help students prepare for a lot of different types of programs. Maybe you can give sort of an overview.
Sure. So as mentioned earlier, we help students that are interested in 8 different pre-professional tracks from med to dental, PA. The really great thing is that no matter which track students are interested in pursuing, which professional school within those, the components of the application are actually very similar, if not the same, across all of those tracks. Mm-hmm. So although there are 240 plus PA programs, and there's more than 25 different vet programs, and hundreds of medical schools, the components are actually very similar. And so we really break it down into major areas that we work with students from the time that they're an incoming freshman all the way through the point of graduation, application, interviewing, etc. So what we really work on to keep it, I guess, the most simple or at the broadest overview is that the components, around metrics. And so that is inclusive of taking the correct prerequisite courses, depending on which professional program you're interested in, completion of your professional school test, which of course can be the MCAT, the DAT, the GRE, the PCAT, the OAT, across the board, different professional school tests, and then your GPA. And so we really work with students on understanding their cumulative, their science, and then their all other GPA when applying to professional school. And one of the biggest pieces to that is the understanding of your professional school GPA as calculated by the medical school application or the dental school application compared to what you may see on a UNLV transcript. And that is because, much like Brian and Lisa mentioned, it's cumulative. There is no grade forgiveness. So every single grade, no matter how old, how many times you took the class, no matter where the class came from, whether it's 4 different colleges, every single grade counts when you apply to professional school for the tracks that we advise for. And so often there can be differences in what students are seeing on their UNLV transcript or their Nevada State transcript compared to the GPA that they're actually going to be applying to professional school with. So we work extensively with students in that regard. So that's kind of the metric component to the application. We also work with students on their experiences. That is a very big part of their application to professional school: clinical experience, shadowing, community service, being involved on campus, obtaining leadership positions, work, employment or direct patient care hours, leadership positions, as I mentioned, being a UTA, etc. So the experiences is another major area to an application to professional school. And then the other components that are required, of course, of personal statement. We really work with students on understanding competencies and attributes that the professional schools are evaluating at many facets of the application. We work with students on their secondary applications, which are a big piece to their overall application. And then lastly, of course, is their interviews. So we have a number of different components that we work with. That's just the very broad overview of what those components are. And then we work with students very heavily on being competitive in each of those areas. As far as GPA, across the board, we would like students, as far as competitiveness, to be anywhere from 3.6 to 3.8 for medical school to 3.1, 3.2 for pharmacy school. So the averages are going to range in between there, depending on the professional school track. Same thing with professional school tests. It's going to be quite different depending on which track you're interested in and what tests you're taking. But we always encourage, 70th, 75th, 80th percentile in those scores across the board. So very different per track, but that's what we're here for. So.
Awesome. And now that I think about it, maybe Dave could also touch on just the overall requirements for any grad student, because in case anybody out there doesn't know, you usually, for any grad school, you're going to be submitting an application for the overall grad school and then a second one for your specific program. So there's different requirements there. So maybe Dave could touch on that a little bit.
Sure. So there are some requirements that the grad college has sort of. What we do is we set up sort of baseline requirements. And one of the great things about UNLV is you do the grad college application and your program application all at the same time. You do it all through our Grad Rebel Gateway system, but we do have some minimums. And so we need a bachelor's degree from a regionally accredited institution. So Nevada State most assuredly counts there. So you're all set. And as Brian mentioned, they have in the law school some great Nevada State students. We do all over our graduate programs here at UNLV, and we definitely want more. The other thing we're looking for is a 2.75 overall GPA, or if college started maybe a little rocky for you, maybe it was a little bit more work than you realized, or maybe you were like me and partied a little too much that first year. Or maybe life just happened. We can look at a 3.0 over the course of your last 60 credits. That's sort of our like freshman forgiveness program is what we like to call that. And then other things really are going to vary by program, but some general things that you can expect to be part of just about any grad application are going to be, personal statements, transcripts. We're going to need transcripts from everywhere. We can take unofficial ones to start looking at your application here at the UNLV Grad College. You may need to take some tests, as Brian and Lisa and Ashley have all mentioned, different testing components, but you can always reach out to us at the Grad College and we can go over all of that with you. And do bear in mind that, as my colleagues here have indicated, different programs do have different minimums. So if you don't quite hit those numbers, if you're a little bit below that 2.75 or a little bit below that 3.0 over the course of the last 60 credits, all hope is not lost. Reach out to us. Some of our programs will work with you a little bit on that. We can do what we call a provisional admission with you, where you'll be admitted, and they'll give you like a list of courses to take in your first semester or your first year, and some grades to get in those courses, and then you'll be able to go from there. As long as you meet those requirements, then you'll be fully admitted into the program. And as Brian mentioned, you don't have to have your bachelor's already. You just got to have it by the time you start. So, if you're going to graduate in the spring and you're looking at fall 2021, go ahead and start that application. Send us the most recent transcripts you have, and then when it's time for you to start grad school, we'll get those final transcripts, make sure you got that degree.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. So on to the next question. This is probably going to be primarily for Dave. This has to do with financial aid. So basically, what are the financial aid options? What options do grad students have to fund their education?
So we have a lot of financial aid options here at the grad school. So let me start with kind of some basic stuff here. Obviously, you can, and we do encourage all of our graduate students to fill out the FAFSA. That's really the first step in the financial aid process, just as it is for undergraduates. You are eligible for loans, but even if you don't want to take out loans, I still want you to fill out the FAFSA, because there are certain grants and other things that can be based on financial need, but we can't determine financial need without a FAFSA. So go ahead and fill that out, even if you're not going to take out loans. Now, one of the best ways to go to grad school is through graduate assistantships. That's where we pay you to go to school. So what those are is you get 100% of your tuition taken care of. You do get a fee reduction, but you still do pay some fees. And then in addition to that, you work 20 hours a week for the university, and you get a stipend. And the stipend is between about $11,000 and $20,000 a year, depending on the program that hires you or the campus unit that hires you. And you can apply for those graduate assistantships in the Grad Rebel Gateway under the funding tab. We encourage you to apply in your program, but we also encourage you to apply for some non-academic ones as well. So for example, the library hires graduate assistants. The grad college hires graduate assistants, student union, places all over campus. We have over 1,000 graduate assistant positions at UNLV, and we commit over $21 million in annual funding to that. In addition, we have $5.7 million set aside for scholarships, fellowships, and grants for our graduate students. So there's a lot of money here at UNLV, for our graduate students. And that's in addition to external funding, loans, things like that. You are eligible for loans as a grad student. They are unsubsidized, so the clock does tick as soon as you take them out. Just be aware of that. And we do regularly have regular online workshops. And one of the ones we do pretty regularly is Grad School 101 and paying for grad school. So I really encourage you all to reach out to us at the grad college to learn more about those, and to find out a little bit more about how all of that works, and about how to finance your grad school education.
Hey, Zach, I'd like to also add for MBA students, primarily because our program is a part-time evening program. I always recommend that students check with their employers, because we do have a lot of students that go to graduate school part-time and work full-time. And we've had a number of our students that take advantage of their employee tuition or employee reimbursement program. And they do have different limits depending on the company, but it works really well with the financial aid also.
And Zach, if I can just differentiate a little bit, just because the law school is not part of the graduate college, so our financial process is a little bit different. We do have quite a few scholarships that are available. Those are entirely merit-based. So you don't need to fill out the FAFSA to be considered for those, and you're going to be automatically considered at the time of application. We do have one scholarship called the Public Interest Fellowship that requires a separate application that you can find on our website. Otherwise, you're going to be automatically considered for everything. If you want loans, on the other hand, and a good number of our students are going to take out loans, you will want to make sure you have the FAFSA filled out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Zach. I think, again, we're a little bit different too. And probably one of the most common questions, which I know you're going to ask later, but I'll address it now, that we get in our office, of course, is how am I going to pay for medical school or PA school? Oftentimes looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars for tuition and possibly debt, which is obviously a major expense, and also one of the biggest components and factors, for our students considering professional school. And so financial aid at the core for your professional school process is going to start with filling out the FAFSA, much like everybody else. That's going to be the first step for filling out and seeing what you're eligible for with the professional program that you've been accepted into. And then from there, oftentimes the medical school, PA school, PT school, OT schools will have their own separate application process for scholarships as well. We do have a lot of programs that have endowments in order to offer scholarships based on the information from the FAFSA, but then most, if not all of them, are also going to have a separate scholarship process to see if there's eligibility for additional scholarship money through the professional program. So we encourage students, because again, that is one of the common questions about how am I going to pay for this? At the core, the process is going to start with the FAFSA and then will be individualized by whichever professional program they're being accepted into. So.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I'm learning a lot from this too. I didn't know there were so many different avenues. That's great. So, okay, this next question was one that I wanted to make sure I asked, because I hear students ask this a lot, which has to do with what their bachelor's degree is in. A lot of students are wondering, can you go to grad school for something different than what you got your bachelor's degree in? And then I have a follow-up question. So this first question I'm gonna direct to Dave and Ashley. And then the second kind of follow-up one that's a little bit more specific is going to be for Brian and Lisa. So just so you know, you'll have a chance. But I'll start with Ashley.
So the great thing that I get to tell students about going to professional school, medical school, dental school, et cetera, is you can do your bachelor's degree in whatever you want to do your bachelor's degree in. Medical schools, PA schools, professional schools appreciate diversity in bachelor's degrees. While the most common, of course, is a science-based degree such as biology, chemistry, biochem, et cetera, they appreciate professional schools programs appreciate students that come from business backgrounds. We have a lot of our pre-dental students who either are majoring in business or minoring in business, criminal justice, fine arts, history, foreign languages. It's all appreciated by professional schools. And the only caveat that we say is you have to get your prereqs done. So whether that be a part of your degree requirement, whether that be something you'll need to work with your academic advisor if you are coming from a non-science-based major to incorporate those common prerequisites or required prerequisites into your electives. There may be some additional classes that you just have to take on top of what's required for your degree. But that's the great thing, is you can go to professional school from whatever major you would like. We encourage you pick something that you're going to be successful in and that you're going to enjoy. That adds to the overall success in the metric component of your application. It seems to enhance kind of your life wisdom, your knowledge, your ability to, authentically articulate your career and your path when it comes to interviews. So that's the great thing. We have students from all over in terms of bachelor's degrees, and it is appreciated by professional school programs.
Great, thank you. And Dave?
So I'll reiterate a lot of what Ashley just said. You don't necessarily have to do that. There are plenty of folks out there like me. All my degree in English. I just sort of kept reading books and applying to programs, but you don't necessarily have to have that background. So one of the big things that Ashley mentioned, though, is those prereqs. Is you want to look and see what programs require. So some programs at UNLV, I mean, obviously it's going to be helpful if you already have a bachelor's in that field, but just so long as you have certain prereqs, that they're looking for, they're certainly willing to look at admission for you. And it may be a case where they're interested in you, but they ask you just to take a couple of undergraduate courses just to get those prereqs. So if you're looking at a program and you see that you don't have the prereqs, don't panic. Reach out to us, reach out to that program graduate coordinator, and let us sort of help you figure out what the best path for you is in terms of making sure that you meet those prereqs for the program so that you can be considered as an applicant to it. But yeah, lots of people switch up or change things. It really just depends.
Awesome. So for Brian and Lisa, I have sort of a follow-up question, which is, what are some of the most common bachelor's degrees that you see from applicants and people who are accepted into your program? What is the most common path that you see? But also feel free to speak to the first part of it, which is, how important is it that they have a specific major, or can they major in anything? And I'll start with Brian.
So just like Ashley said, there is no required major, not even a preferred one. We had 121 students in our entering class last year with 53 different majors between them. So I think the stereotype is that you have to major in history or political science, and we certainly have people who do that, but we have tons of people who major in English, which is my undergrad, so I'm always happy to see those. We've got a lot of business people, engineers, dance, professional musicians, violin. You pretty much, hard sciences, biology, chemistry, biochem, computer science. We've got the entire range of the academic, of the course catalog, basically. So whatever your major is, we're very excited to see you. One other thing I'll just note, this kind of goes off of Ashley's point, there is really no undergraduate major in law. A couple of schools have started to develop those, but we are not expecting people to have an undergraduate major in law, because at 99.9% of universities, those don't exist. And we're not expecting people to have prior work or volunteer experience in law. If you do, that's great. But we want to see excellence in what you've done before coming to law school, and that doesn't have to be working for a law firm.
Awesome. And for the record, I am also an English major. So we got three
nice.
English major people here. Okay, and then Lisa.
Well, my background, my undergrad was environmental science. I pursued an MBA, and then I worked on a PhD in organizational leadership. So my background is also very different coming into the MBA program. Same as everybody's mentioned, we don't have a specific degree to come into the MBA. It is helpful if you have a little bit of accounting and economics, but the way our program works is it does go pretty quickly, but they do start you off with the courses so you get the basic information about accounting, economics, and finance, and then move on to the graduate level information that you need to know. Most common degrees, I don't know if we have most common degrees, because it just, as everybody's mentioned, it's very diverse as far as our students' backgrounds, academic, professional, and personal backgrounds. The MBA was originally designed for people that didn't have a background in business, but ended up in an area where they had to make business decisions, primarily engineers. So we do have a number of engineers, we have doctors and lawyers, and students that are pursuing the dual programs, people that work in hospitality, people that work in a variety of different fields that have undergrad degrees in history, criminology, psychology, sociology. So we like that diversity as well for the students coming into our program. The couple of things with our program, on average, our students have about 5 years of work experience, but we have probably about 10% of our students that are coming in directly from undergrad that do have significant work experience coming out of their undergrad. And then students that have been working for years. Our age range is 19 to 72 for our MBA program, but the average is about 30. So that also adds a little bit of diverse information as well, working with students from different generations.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, so much. Okay, so the next question is sort of the elephant in the room today, which is COVID-19. So my basic question for pretty much everybody is going to be, how have UNLV graduate programs adapted to the COVID-19 pandemic? How have your programs changed? How have you switched things virtual? To what extent are things virtual? So I will go ahead and start with Dave.
So yeah, that's an excellent question. Like I said, we work with, at the Graduate College, over 175 different programs. So I'm not going to go through each of them individually or anything, but I just sort of say in broad strokes, some of the things, let's start with the application process first. I think that, some of our programs have waived certain requirements, certain testing requirements and things like that. And if you'd like to know more about that, you can reach out to our office, and we can sort of, talk to you about which programs you're interested in and what they've done there. But one of the things I've seen a lot of as well is programs are just, I think, willing to be a little bit more patient about certain things. And one question that we get a lot is, that folks have is about like the SU grading that a lot of schools did in spring 2020. Pretty much every graduate college in the country has agreed that spring 2020 was the weirdest semester that anybody had ever seen. And so we're just going to roll with the SU grades. So that's totally fine if that's what you have, for most of our programs. So the big thing that I would say in terms of like how the actual programs themselves have adapted, I mean, obviously we've done a lot more online courses. and some hybrid courses as well. And in some cases, some of our science programs, for example, they've done the lecture part online and then brought students in smaller numbers for labs. And things like that. So I think we're all sort of, been feeling our way through it. We're really hoping that spring 2021 is going to be our last COVID semester. I think we're all hoping that for all kinds of reasons. So, hopefully in the fall, we can have everybody gathered back on campus. But I do think that going forward, we will see more online offerings, more online courses, more online programs. And I think programs may sort of look at some of their admission standards that they changed or waived as a result of the pandemic. And some of those changes may become permanent, but only time will tell on that front.
Thank you. Yeah, that's the interesting thing about COVID is how many of these changes are going to last past COVID. It's going to be interesting. No one really knows the answer to that question yet. So it's going to be an interesting few years, that's for sure. So I'll go ahead and throw it to Ashley.
Oh gosh, so in what ways hasn't the application to medical and dental, programs, PA programs not been affected by COVID? We have had to shift our entire office efforts, as you can imagine, over the last 6 months to a very fluid situation from, testing, like Dave mentioned, MCATs have been canceled, testing centers have been closed. Of course, then the SU grading, our professional school is going to accept SU grades for prerequisites. Are they going to accept online courses going forward, especially lab courses? Just the delays in the application opening. It has just been quite the last 6 to 7 months of pivoting and adjusting and asking our students to be very flexible and fluid with the situation. Of course, probably one of the biggest areas that have been affected for students' application is the experiences. We have a population of students that we are asking to have clinical experience, to be volunteering in clinical settings, direct patient care hours for PA, pre-PA students to be working in emergency rooms and as scribes and medical assistants and ER technicians. Shadowing has pretty much gone out the door because, of course, no one besides patients are allowed in clinics. And so our students have really faced a lot of challenges with building up their resume during this time, and we foresee that that's going to extend into next application as well as students continue to navigate COVID and the implications with their experiences moving forward. So we really have tried to put together a lot of resources out of the box type of e-shadowing and webinars and those type of information and resources for our students to continue to build their application for professional school, but in what may look quite a bit different for the students moving forward. Professional schools are changing, adapting as they go. SU grading and, not accepting S's for prerequisites or online courses, the pushback of MCAT dates, all of that is very much changing by the minute, and professional schools are adjusting the best that they can. But these are really big implications on their admissions process when we start talking about students who are applying now without the amount of clinical or shadowing or, hospital volunteering experiences they have in the past. So there's a lot of adjustments, a lot of flexibility from the professional schools. And this is probably going to affect next cycle as well as students get ready to apply next summer. So it's very, very fluid, changing by the day, but we're trying to keep up the best that we can. This is all of the health professions advisors and my colleagues across the nation that are trying to adjust and advise the best that we can as circumstances continue to change. But we're really working hard with students to think out of the box, unique ways to do virtual community service or, participating with COVID tracing or those types of things. That's just a different take on clinical. So we're making a lot of adjustments, but definitely some major, major impacts on our students that are applying to professional school.
Great, thank you. Lisa?
right before COVID, we were actually moving our program from a fully in-class MBA program to a hybrid format where students would be in class the first week, they'd be remote the second, they'd be in class the third week and remote the fourth, all the way through the semester. And we were making that transition because we found that on-campus interaction with our students was so important because you learn with and learn from those individuals in the classroom. But we also wanted to provide our students with a little bit more flexibility. So going to class every other week allowed them to do both. When COVID hit, our classes went pretty much online. This semester, we did start the hybrid format for a number of our classes, but allowed flexibility for students that either worked in areas where they were higher risk in medical, or if they had individuals at home or they were themselves at risk for COVID, they would still be able to participate remotely. We did have a core group of students, I think in maybe 4 or 5 of our courses that did go to class every other week, but it was, we allowed students to also dial in remotely. So that seems to be what we've done. Another thing that we've done is we didn't discount the GMAT, unfortunately, for a lot of people. We had a lot of people request information about whether or not we were allowing students to be admitted without the GMAT. We didn't do that. What we did when the GMAT tests were canceled for a lot of our students is we started a business administration certificate that was previously only allowed to be pursued by students in other master and degree programs. We opened that up as a freestanding certificate so students could get started, still have time to take the GMAT because of the delay since the GMAT, I think it was probably 2 months where they didn't allow in-person classes or in-person tests before they offered the online test. So it's about 2 months. So they were still able to meet that deadline for the business administration certificate, which we're continuing that as a freestanding certificate. And we also extended our deadlines. And I think Ashley mentioned being flexible. We have become very flexible with our students with the exception of GMAT, a little bit flexible, but not really as much as other MBA programs.
So you already unmuted yourself. Go ahead, Brian.
I figured this was coming, yeah. So I'll talk about the admission side first and then the programmatic side. So a couple of big changes. One is that historically, the LSAT has only been offered in person 4 times a year. Now, the the Law School Admission Council, or LSAC, the organization that administers the LSAT, had started to shift that, and they'd been offering it more often, but they had held pretty closely to this idea that it had to be offered in a testing center. Then suddenly COVID happened, and miraculously, they had the ability to create, almost on the fly, what's called the LSAT Flex, where the LSAT Flex is still offered on specific days out of the year, but it's now offered about 10 times during the year. You can take it in your home. There's monitoring software and all of that kind of stuff. So the LSAT hasn't gone away. What this has led to has been kind of 2 changes. And when I say this, not just the LSAT Flex change, but also just the nature of the pandemic. For one thing, law school applications are up dramatically nationwide. The number of law school applicants this cycle is up about 33% compared to this time last year. Our number of applications at UNLV are up 58% compared to this time last year. And we don't know if this is just an early stage, if people had a lot more time over the summer to get their applications ready, although the registration for future tests is up pretty high as well too. So this could be a year-to-year change, which is going to make the process extremely competitive. And what's adding to the competitiveness of this is that LSAT scores are up pretty dramatically. And again, we don't know if this is because people have had more time to study for it, if it's a lot easier to take a test in your own home instead of in a testing center with 200 other people coughing and farting and doing all of the things that people do in testing centers, or if there's something about the structure of this LSAT Flex that seems to be easier. But bottom line is this year it's going to be extremely competitive. We've got a lot of really strong applicants right now. So we're actually not going more flexible with our application process just because of the application volume and the competitiveness of applicants. And we don't know if that's going to continue in future years or if things are going to kind of go back to normal once the economy has recovered and people maybe have some of their old options back that they don't have right now due to the nature of health regulations. As far as programmatic changes, all of our courses are now online. That has been a little bit of a learning curve adjustment. It's not exactly as fun as any of us would like it to be. I'm personally right now teaching an 81-person wills and trusts class that, you know, I've made some adaptations to, and all of our faculty have made adaptations to those. We do still have some in-person arrangements for our placements, so clinics, externships, internships, depending on the placement, depending on the nature of the work. Some of those that require very sensitive client interaction, particularly our immigration clinic, for example, do have to still have an in-person element. A lot of other things can be done pretty well online, and we've shifted to that. And like everybody else has said, we do hope that that part of things ends as soon as the vaccine becomes promulgated and we get over this particular challenge. I don't know if we'll look at adopting a long-term hybrid program or anything along those lines. There are about 4 or 5 law schools in the country that have that, and it's tended to be fairly isolated to those, but we'll see if this pandemic ushers in a new era of change for that.
Great, thank you, everyone. So our next question, what types of professional opportunities are available to your students to prepare them for their careers post-graduation? So this is, you know, graduate assistantships, research, fellowships, practicums, that sort of thing. We'll go ahead and start with Dave, just to give us the more general rundown of that.
Sure. For the general rundown, like we mentioned earlier, we do have a number of GA positions here on campus, over 1,000. And even though we got hammered pretty good budget-wise by COVID and by the pandemic, as a lot of universities did, we didn't lose any graduate assistantships. So we're really proud of that. We were able to keep them all, and we anticipate that will continue going forward. So, like I said earlier, you can apply for those in the funding tab in your Grad Rebel Gateway, and we encourage you to apply for those as well. So we have about 1,000 GAs and about 5,000 grad and professional students. So 1 in 5 is pretty good odds. Even better when you consider the fact that a number of our students are working full time and therefore not applying for GAs. In addition to that, we do have those grad college scholarships and fellowships, and I always encourage you to check with your program as well. Check with the program you're interested in, and see there. And the best piece of advice I can give in terms of general for getting one of those assistantships, getting some of those scholarships, fellowships, things like that, is prepare the best application you possibly can. Because a lot of times, programs use those to try to recruit you, right? They're sort of trying to sweeten the pot to get you if they feel like that you're a really good applicant. They want to offer you an assistantship or offer you a scholarship or something like that. So I know that that paying for school seems different than applying to school, but in grad school, they're really closely related. And so the better the overall application you can put together, the better the chance you're going to be in. And I'll mention one last thing about that, which is if you're going to apply for a graduate assistantship in your program, please tell the people who are writing your letters of recommendation that you're going to do that, so that they can drop a line or two in their letter of recommendation about what a great graduate teaching assistant that you would make. The goal is to get all the parts of your application to talk to each other. And sometimes that can really, really make a difference, in terms of that. And be sure you apply for assistantships as you apply to programs, because a lot of programs appoint assistants when they admit students. So don't wait to get admitted. Go ahead and apply just as soon as you hit submit on your application.
All right, thank you. Lisa?
We have an optional internship program. So for students that have limited work experience, we encourage them to take the internship class as an elective within their program. We also offer career services through our Lee Career and Professional Development Office. And I know the university has a career services center as well. And they have the Handshake platform that they have students register in and look for internships and job postings. But there are a lot of opportunities to get involved with faculty as a GA to work on some of their research, depending on what they're interested in. There's also, for the MBA, we've had students that have gone into business with other students, students have hired other students, students have married other students. So we think about our program as when you're going through that program and you're working with those other students, you never know where that next opportunity will come from. So we do have that with our team building within our classroom, that you just never know who might be hiring another student. So that's why it's so important while you're in the program to really learn the material and get to connect. MBA is a lot about networking as well. So for us, that's an important part, is just connecting with the faculty, connecting with the students to take advantage of that opportunity that comes their way.
Great, thank you. And Brian?
Sure. So professional development in law school is going to basically be composed of internships, externships, clinics, and then simulated courses. And I'll go over each of those briefly. Internships are where you're working for law firms or companies and you get paid for those. Externships are where you're working for governmental and nonprofit organizations and you get academic credit for those instead of getting paid, because typically they don't have the budget to pay. Clinics are where you're working at the law school under the supervision of practicing attorneys who are also faculty members in one of a few different areas: immigration, appellate advocacy, kids court, investor protection, tax, juvenile justice, family justice, family mediation, and a couple of others that I'm probably forgetting off the top of my head. And then simulation courses are things like trial advocacy, negotiation, where they're actually in a classroom format being taught by, for example, the Clark County District Attorney, Judge Richard Bulwer, who's a federal judge for the District of Nevada, experts in mediation, negotiation, etc. I'll also add that, internships and externships will often lead to job placements with that organization after you've been hired, or will be a good line on the resume to help you then network to your next job. We also do a lot of networking here, and like with the business school, there is sometimes some dating and marriage that results from that, but we do tend to focus also on the professional aspect of that. We're really lucky at UNLV in that, being the only law school in the state, we have more externship and internship opportunities every semester than we have students to fill them in the state. We are also able to help you get internship and externship as well as postgraduate placements outside of the state of Nevada, of course, but it's ludicrously easy if you want to stay in Nevada for us to get you a job here.
All right, thank you. And last but not least, Ashley.
Sorry, I think Lisa was trying to say something, but she was muted.
Okay, sure, please, thank you. Sorry.
You also have your own career services office, don't you, Brian, within the law school?
We do, and thank you for the nod on that, Lisa. Yes, we've got a great career development office, and we also have a director of externship programs who supervises just that part of the externship program. But yeah, we've got a great team of 3 career development officers led by our fantastic assistant dean, Rachel Adair, who supervises that program, and Nikki Harris, who's routinely staff of the year because she is just like the wizard at helping people get jobs. One other thing that I'll just throw in on that, we've got an extraordinarily high judicial clerkship rate. About a third of our students get judicial clerkships after they graduate, which is something like 6th best in the country. And we're pretty good at law school, but we're not number 6 in the country. And that has a lot to do with the work of that fantastic career development team and helping our students get judicial clerkships after they graduate.
Awesome. And so, Ashley.
So our post-graduation, as far as beyond medical school, PA school, we don't work too much with students in that area. A lot of that's going to come out of the actual professional program that they end up matriculating to. We often work with students on asking those questions when they're considering their professional school programs and deciding which potential medical school or dental school, PA school they want to apply to, and then of course matriculate to if they have multiple acceptances. We spend some time talking with those students about the type of questions to ask their admissions officers, the faculty that are there, student affairs officers. But post medical school, of course, is very different than post PA school. After PA school, you're going to go get a job. After medical school, you have to start applying for residencies. After residency, you're potentially applying for fellowships, and then you're applying for jobs. So there could be multiple steps depending on which track, most of which is going to be done through the professional program you're matriculating to. But we do work with students and encourage them to ask those type of questions up front, because it can make a difference in where they end up going. So.
All right, so the next question is just a very general question that I'm going to field to everybody, which is basically for an undergraduate student who is considering going to grad school right now, what do you recommend they do to prepare? What are their next steps to prepare for their next step? I'll go ahead and start with Dave. I always like to start with Dave just because he can give us the general and then we can get more specific from there.
Absolutely. So I would say the best thing that you can do right now is be proactive. Start looking at programs early. Remember that with graduate school, you're really applying to programs more than you're necessarily applying to a specific school, right? It's a little bit different than applying to undergrad. So I would say give yourself time to do things. You know, reach out to program coordinators at UNLV. Each of our programs has a graduate coordinator. Sometimes people are a little hesitant to reach out to them, but don't be. Their whole job is to work with their current graduate students and to bring in new graduate students. So they want to talk to you. They want to get to know you. So don't feel awkward about that. And if you want to start with us at the graduate college, or if you're not sure about what program you'd like to be enrolled in, give us a call. You know, we'll be happy to shoot us an email. We'll be happy to sit down with you one day over the phone or over Zoom or WebEx and get it all figured out with you and help you sort of get pointed in the right direction. The other thing I would say is start the process early. In terms of your application, you know, you don't want to be throwing together a grad school application at the last minute because it will look like it was thrown together at the last minute. You know, you want to give your recommenders plenty of lead time so that they can write you really, really good letters, right? You want to take time to write, to carefully craft a personal statement. There's a great writing center on campus at Nevada State. I really encourage you all to make use of it. They will help with your personal statements. They see those a lot. I used to work in a writing center. I worked with a lot of personal statements. So, you know, there are a lot of resources. You know, when it comes time to prepare that resume or CV, reach out to your career services office. Take advantage of those campus resources that you have. Those folks are here to help you, and they can really, they can really make a difference for you in terms of preparing an application. The other thing I'll say is with certain exceptions that I think Ashley and Brian will probably talk about, you know, certain things like you really do have to have like a 3.7, a 3.8, you know, if you're really seriously thinking about law school, med school, things like that. But for a lot of programs, you know, if you've got a 3.1, a 3.2, even a little bit lower than that, that's workable. You know, so definitely keep your grades up, but don't feel like that, oh, I don't have a 4.0, therefore I can't go to graduate school. Lots of people don't have close to a 4.0 when they apply to graduate school. I was one of them. So, you know, I would say just take your time, reach out to folks. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And, you know, and if you have any questions along the way, you can always talk to us at the grad college. We're happy to go over any questions you may have.
Since Dave did mention career services, I'm going to put a little shameless plug here. We do work with you to help you with graduate school. We have a specific meeting type that when you go and register for an appointment in our office, you can meet with the director of our office. Her name is Nicole. She's awesome. And she will help you with anything that has to do with applying to graduate school. Finding the right exams, putting together your personal statement, whatever it might be, she can help you with that. So please reach out to us. We want to hear from you. That's why we got into this business. So please reach out. I'll go ahead and throw it to Ashley.
So I would like to start with just saying to the students at this point to really utilize your resources and do your research. It's going to be very, very important, especially our current environment where we're not seeing people as much. Maybe you're feeling a little bit more disconnected. Really reach out and utilize the resources that you have available to you. We are all in our positions because we want to help students at the end of the day. And so, utilize that. Find those resources on campus, ask questions. And then as Dave mentioned, to echo that, do your research. When you're applying to medical school, dental school, PA schools, this is not something, to echo Dave, that you just throw together. I think this cycle is very interesting. As Brian mentioned, the increase in applications to law school, there is an explosion of applications to medical school this year. Unfortunately, it's a lot because people think that there's a ton of flexibility in the medical school application process. And so they are taking their chance this cycle, which I think is going to have more of a negative effect than a positive one. So you really have to do your research and understand the process. Our students that we assist going to medical school, dental school, et cetera. This is not a decide one day and then you're applying the next semester. The timeline to applying to medical dental schools is a 16 to 18 month process. You need several years to prepare before you get to that point. So you really have to be proactive. You've got to do your research and understand the process. We are here to help guide and advise, but it is imperative that if this is the path that you want to pursue, that you do your research your research and utilize your resources. Come and ask us those questions. We're happy to help you get down the right path. When it comes to competencies just within yourself, really find that true motivation for your path. Know what you're getting yourself into. Understand the role of physicians and dentists and PAs, and know deep down that this is what you want to do, and be able to articulate your motivation and your passion for this, for these types of careers. And last but not least, resiliency is absolutely a must, whether we're in a pandemic or not. Our students that are pursuing these programs, this is tough, y'all. This is, we don't try to sugarcoat it in our office. We are very transparent in an empathetic way, of course, but we're also not going to, build up hope when there's some work to be done. So, resiliency is very important in your journey to professional school. You have to be open to advice and guidance, and you have to be open to doing the hard work to get you to those goals. So really work on building those skills, and being open and willing to accept advice and guidance, and that will be one of the best skills and attributes that you can develop within yourself as you not only continue the application to professional school, but in medical school, in dental school, etc.
Thank you, and I'll throw it to Lisa.
I wanted to add one thing. I agree with everything that Dave and Ashley mentioned as far as our MBA program. I wanted to kind of give students a little bit of information about, doing their due diligence to make sure that that program is the right fit for them. I know I talk to students that are looking at maybe hospitality, or they're looking at public administration or the MBA. And I always recommend them to speak to the different graduate coordinators of the program, because fit is important. You want to make sure you're a good fit for that graduate program. And another thing, you're going to spend a lot of time and money going to grad school. You want to also make sure that you're going to be a good fit for whatever field you go into. And I think one of the benefits of being a student is to be able to do informational interviewing with people that work in those careers that you're interested in getting into. I know a lot of people love to speak with students and share their knowledge, maybe how they got to where they are. And it's a great opportunity for you to do your due diligence to find out if that area or that industry or that company is the best fit for you. We've had a couple of students that have done internship in their MBA programs. One student in particular did an internship, 2 internships in one summer. The first one, he found out he was not a good fit for that industry or that company. The second one, he ended up working for that company for 6 or 7 years. So again, finding that fit for your graduate program, and then finding where you fit in that bigger industry or company that you want to work for. I think that's really important to do while you're kind of exploring what you want to do in graduate school and for the rest of your career.
And last but not least, Brian.
Well, I mean, this is great because they've all taken everything I was going to say anyway. So that's absolutely perfect. All of that advice is, I think, going to be very applicable to law. And I guess just to go off of one point, make sure you're putting in the work to the best degree that you can, to the extent that, you still have time to improve your GPA, whether you're a freshman or a junior or a senior, put the time into your grades, put the time into studying for the LSAT or the MCAT or the GMAT or whatever test you're going to be studying for. Take it a second time if the first time goes poorly, depending on, and that might be a little bit discipline specific. So make sure you do the finding out about that. Put in the time to find out if you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or a business person or a PA or whatever it is. Just make sure that you are being very thoughtful and that you are putting in the time and the grind that you need to give us the best application you possibly can.
All right, thank you. So we're getting close to the end of our time here. So I have one last question for everybody, which is, if students have more questions, who should they ask? And if that person is you, please throw out your contact information, your email, however students should reach you or whoever they should reach. And I will also include that information on the webpage for this video. So it should be to the right of this video or below it, but usually to the right. So I will stick with the order I've been doing and start with Dave.
So the Grad College is a great place to start for any UNLV graduate programs except dental, medicine, and law. In that case, we do just about everything else. So we're always a great place to start. You can reach out to us at gradrecruitment@unlv.edu. If you would like that email to come to me, put my name either in the subject line or somewhere in it. It's Dave, and they'll route it over to me. Also, you can give us a call at 702-895-4543. We're not currently in the office, but that number is being forwarded around. So it's usually ringing in my apartment. And if it's not ringing here, it's ringing with one of my colleagues. So, if you don't get us, leave a message. We check the voicemail. So leave a message. We'll call you back, and we'll set up a time, to go over your program options and to get you pointed in the right direction in terms of contact information for your coordinator, selecting programs, making sure you're aware of resources that are available to help you, get you hooked up with our regular application workshops, all that fun stuff.
Great. And Ashley?
Sure. So we have a pretty robust website that is open, of course, 24 hours, 7 days a week. And so you can just simply Google UNLV PPAC, and that will take you directly to our webpage, which we have enhanced and made more robust since we are virtual. We're trying to put as much information on the website as we can. If you do have any questions, on Tuesday afternoons between 2 and 4, I do open up my schedule for non-UNLV students to do quick 20-minute phone appointments to answer your initial questions about the path to professional school. You can give our main office a call at 702-895-2959, and then we will get you on that list for a Tuesday afternoon appointment. If you would like a quick initial phone call, that would be with me. I'm happy to answer any questions to get you started. I've done that for a good number of Nevada State students so far, so we're happy to add you to that list. Again, just give our office a call and we can get you set up for one of those appointments. Otherwise, again, feel free to visit the website that is open for anybody and everybody to utilize.
Okay, and Lisa?
We do have information on our website, but we don't have everything on our website. We do have our information. We'd like for students to contact us, either email or phone, so we can have that connection before they actually apply. So my contact information, email is lisa.davis@unlv.edu. Our direct phone line that Marcella actually answers is 702-895-3655. She does work with a lot of applicants that are coming into our various MBA programs. We also work with the Grad College. I know Dave and I have worked together on a number of information sessions that are specific to MBA. We have several that are dual. So if you're looking at the dual with the hotel or the dual with Quant, we do have information sessions that we work with the graduate college on. That's another great way to get information and get connected and have your questions answered from both a graduate college perspective and a department perspective.
Thank you. And speaking of those information sessions, we are putting some of our older information sessions onto our sort of online library that we're creating. And we do have one for the business schools that I have created already. It's not live yet, but I would suspect that by the time this panel goes live, that'll also be there. So look out for that. You'll be able to learn more about the business school there. And finally, we will end with Brian.
Oh, no pressure. So feel free to give me a call. My direct line is 702-895-1350. You can also call the admissions main line, which is 702-895-4189. Yes, I did just have to look at the phone to make sure I got that right. My email address is brian.wall@unlv.edu. Also, feel free to go to our website, which is law.unlv.edu. We have weekly information sessions on either a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday that you're welcome to sign up for. Those are on Zoom, so we can, you can come to any of those if you want to, or just give me a call or email me, whatever you prefer.
All right, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for attending our panel discussion. That concludes our time. So if you have any further questions, please feel free to look at any of that contact information that they just gave you. I'm also, like I said, I'm gonna add it on the side of this video somewhere. You should be able to see it pretty clearly. Also, please reach out to Career Services, make an appointment with us to talk about grad school or to help with creating your resume, anything like that. And we'll be able to help you with that. So that pretty much concludes our time. So thank you so much, everybody, for participating. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.